Hey there viewers, it's Charlie. I'm back again with another Transformers review, and today I shall review Robots in Disguise 2001 Destructicon Bludgeon. So yeah, Robots in Disguise was pretty much a mixture of some new figures and a ton of recolors. I mean, sure, there's the new molds like Prime and Magnus who I've reviewed, Rail Racer, Landfill, Megatron, but pretty much most of Robots in Disguise was just recolored figures. For example, most of the Predacons were Beast Wars Transmetal recolors, the Spy Changes were G2 GoBots, Ruination was just G1 Bruticus. And as you can see, Bludgeon here, he's pretty much just a recolor of the Generation 2 combat hero Megatron, along with Scourge. Well, Scourge is normally a recolor of Laser Prime, who I have reviewed before. The Destructicon version of Scourge was a recolor of combat hero Optimus Prime. But having a look at Bludgeon, of course, as I said, he's pretty much a recolor of Combat Megatron, or if you're European, Archforce. So yeah, now having a look at the figure, we can see that he still has the treads from the other G2 Megatron that I've reviewed all the way back in June, July, I can't remember. But let's leave it at 2020. Here he's got some Destructicon insignias on the side bits of the turret. Got this hose here and this air pump. And if you see my review on Laser Prime, you'll definitely recognize this. The top of the figure, where we can see the turret and the bladder again, or the air bellows. And the underneath, which, well, yeah, this is proof that this is a G2 mold, because it says 1993, and from what I can remember, this figure came out in 2003, so this was during Armada. Keep in mind, this is a Robots in Disguise figure, the 2001 version, and this came out around the same time as Armada. So yeah. However, something that's pretty cool, I love this Decepticon symbol here. Normally this would be a huge sticker on the Megatron version that says Megatron rules. Or if it's the Archforce version, it still has the sticker, but it doesn't have the Megatron rules thing there. But Bludgeon just has the little Decepticon insignia, which is pretty nice. Now, before I get onto the gimmick and the transformation, here's a comparison with the bigger Generation 2 Megatron. Because keep in mind, this was supposed to be a version of Megatron in G2. So as you can see, there are some similarities. For example, the way the transformation works is still the same, which we'll get to soon. But as you can see, the turret is different. Because here it's a lot bulkier and it has this for loading the missiles. Whereas with this one, it just has this little air pump, which we'll see later. The backs look rather similar, aside from the fact that the tail light things, at least I think they're tail lights, these bits are circular. Whereas, well, even though there's circular things on the top, the back is actually, well, to make more sense, these bits seem to have migrated up here, and these bits probably just moved out to the side here. I know, I rarely make sense. The tops, where instead of we only have one Decepticon insignia here for Megatron, whereas the Bludgeon has the two of them. And the underneath, at least Megatron had some panels hiding the leg kibble. Whereas with Bludgeon, there's pretty much nothing. But that's pretty much it for Megatron. We'll see him later on. Now, as I said earlier, this guy does have a gimmick. If you remember my review on Laser Prime, it had a little air pump similar to the one here where you could just slam onto it to cause a missile to fire. Well, that was also the gimmick of the combat hero guys. Although I don't have the actual missiles, I'm just going to use the ones from Prime. Now, if you don't feel like firing them, but you don't have anywhere else to store them, well, you do have this little bit here that they can go into, which is... This is actually a really cool gimmick. Oh, well, not gimmick, but feature. If you don't want to have one of the missiles on the turret, but you still want to display them, then you can just open these up and have them there. But of course, the main gimmick is the actual thing, well, the firing gimmick. So if you just unplug the little bellows, then just stick on one of the rockets, and my throat will actually work for me. And normally, you just push onto it to fire, although... I don't know why, but it seems to just not fire on Bludgeon. I don't know if the combat hero missiles and the ones from Laser Prime are sort of different, but for whatever reason, it's just not firing. Even if I slam onto it. You see? It just does not fire whatsoever. However, if I keep my hands here and press it, I can feel some air coming out the actual tip of the missile. So I don't know. And these missiles fire fine on Laser Prime, which are the... well, because that's the figure that these are supposed to go with. But... yeah, I don't really know if it's supposed to be like different missiles, if they're different or whatever, but... sorry, I can't really show the actual gimmick. But what I can show is the transformation. And, well, this is a pretty cool transformation. If you've seen Megatron's transformation, you've seen this guy's transformation. So pretty much do what you did with Megatron and get the legs out and just fold them out. The only difference being is, well, there's no flaps to cover again. Then you just move that down. Take the arms. Move them down, and another difference is, instead of turning them 180, you just turn the arms 90 degrees. But he still has the elbows. Just like with Megatron, turn the turret to the side, the big shoulder cannon. Although another difference is, instead of the head just springing up automatically, you have to manually flip it up. But this is pretty much Bludgeon in his robot modes. And right off the bat, you can see this doesn't really look like Bludgeon, does it? I mean, having a look at his head, that's not a skeleton face. That's just Megatron's face. So, yeah. As you can see, this guy does not look like a skeleton samurai. If anything, this guy just looks like if Brawl was painted yellow. Which makes me wonder, why did they decide to name this guy Bludgeon? I mean, I know that the original Bludgeon was a tank, but there were other Destructicon tank names they could have used, like Brawl. Like, yeah, honestly, I would feel better if they named this guy Brawl. But all nitpicks about this guy not being a skeleton aside, this is still a cool looking figure. I mean, yeah, he is leaning down, but that's just so you can see his face better. Of course, the back is hollow, but well, I mean, it's a simple figure. If the missile gimmick still worked, so I would have showed you that in robot mode, but remember it didn't work, so I can't. So this bellow thing is just gonna have to stay in the cannon for all eternity. Well, let's have a look at this guy's articulation, eh? And this guy is definitely more approachable than the original Megatron. For one, he's actually got head rotation, which the original G2 Megatron didn't have. Of course, the arms can move. I mean, Megatron did it as well, but he's got elbows and sideways elbow action. And something rather cool, he legit can actually T-pose. This is a bit of I can't even speak. This is a bit of articulation that was not on Megatron. So the fact that they implemented it with this version, that is amazing. Another bit of articulation that Megatron didn't have. Waist rotation. The legs can move up. Can move back. Got full range of knees thanks to the transformation. And finally, another bit of articulation that Megatron didn't have. The splits. This guy can T-pose and do the splits. Two things that Megatron couldn't do. So, already the articulation is better. But does this mean the figure itself is better? Well, let's just get into the comparison, eh? So here he is with his big bro, I'll call him. And of course I'm going to have to raise my camera. I'll just use my hands this time. But yeah, G2 Megatron is definitely bigger. I mean, of course, the shoulder cannons are different, but we went over that in the vehicle mode. One difference is G2 Megatron actually has feet, whereas this guy's just got these little nubs on the legs. Megatron's, well, this bit's all bare, whereas with Bludgeon, it's got a Destructicon insignia. And the heads are sort of different. Because you see that this guy's got a bit more detailing on his helmet. But, well, that's pretty much all I have to say. I mean, is this a better figure? Well, that's up to you to decide. It's all a matter of opinion. I mean, for complaints, well, for one, the pump can come off a little bit easily if you're trying to transform him, so try to be careful. Another thing is, seeing how this guy doesn't really have any flaps, you can see a bit more kibble in the vehicle modes. Another gripe is, if you don't have the actual rockets that came with this guy, and you only have, like, laser primes, then it probably just won't work, so you're missing the entire gimmick out entirely, but oh well, I just display my figures anyway. And the last one, although this one is just a nitpick, so it's not a deal breaker, it's just a nitpick. I hate how, even though they named him Bludgeon, he does not look like a skeleton samurai whatsoever. His face doesn't look like Skeletor's face. He has no swords. He just looks like a yellow version of Megatron. So, I would feel better if they called this guy Brawl, as I said earlier. Oh well, it's just a nitpick. If you don't mind, then good for you. But do I recommend Bludgeon? Or even the original Combat Megatron for that matter? Well, yeah. This guy does look rather cool next to the original G2 Megatron. And well, if he can actually get the missile firing gimmick to work, then it's definitely quite fun. Plus, this guy is definitely more posable than G2 Megatron, so he definitely has a lot more action poses. So, well, I can't really say which one I prefer. I still really like this guy. Well, this has been my review on R&D Bludgeon, well, the 2001 version. And this is Charlie Young, signing off.